And thanks for joining us for This Week in Jacksonville Business Edition. And this week we are going deep with the president of Jacksonville University. Tim Cost sat down with me to talk about the school after it had missed a covenant compliance and about the perception that JU is having some financial problems. I spoke with President Cost on campus at JU this week. So let's start here. The recent reporting, Jacksonville Business Journal, hey, JU's got some financial concerns. What's the broad picture here? I know you said going into your 13th year starts in February, but when you came in as president, it seemed like there had been maybe some financial trouble, and it seems like JU in this decade plus has done really well. Where does it stand right now?
Sure, and I appreciate it. You and I have been doing this for a lot of years together. I thought that the issue, if you go back 13 years, what the challenge was I thought the university, and ultimately we came to agreement at the board level, the faculty level, it was sort of mispositioned, that there was going to be a big opportunity in things like healthcare, business, and technology. Those three things, if you can think all the way back, pre-AI, early days of cyber, and we were all using the internet and iPhone 6s. It looked to me, and again, I was from corporate America, I wasn't in higher education, that if you wanted to reflect the opportunity in the region, that you would start to move in that direction. So we started to create partnerships and investments with Baptist Health, with Brooks, with Florida Blue, with the Mayo Clinic. And you saw us make a big push. A lot of the media you and I've done together has been around, you added speech-language pathology, kinesiology, mental health counseling, occupational therapy, keep right on going, respiratory care. So all of those things began to position us. Then we plussed up what we were doing in things like engineering, aviation, marine sciences, public policy. That's when I thought we were starting to look like we really were reflecting the region. And I think people were appreciative since then, law school, medical school, et cetera. So that positioned us well. The set of financial challenges in that era were sort of, do you have enough juice, do you have enough gas from the traditional liberal arts and sciences college style to get home, to be successful, to deliver to the students what they wanted. We were also, importantly, primarily an undergraduate university, 18 to 22-year-olds. Everyone knows, if you want to put it in Google or look it up in your favorite AI tool, what happens in 2026 in America. People during the recession of 08, 09 may have been doing a lot of things, but they weren't having children. So you have what's known as the cliff in the industry of higher education, where you have a fall off in the number of 18-year-olds who weren't born back in 2008. So there's going to be a greater competition for 18-year-olds. We, seeing that in 13, 14, and 15, started to put a higher premium on graduate level education. So you saw us making a lot more investments in the master's level up to the doctoral level. So the university that was less than 10% graduate degrees back in that era you're talking about, 13, 14, today a third of the university is graduate degrees. You charge differently for that. People go right into the workforce. That was then. What we're talking about now, the issue that has been brought up and we're being asked about all legitimately, is we tripped a single bond covenant. And we, in the interim, as the university has been doing well, we had the opportunity to enter public bond markets way back in 2017, 2018 at very attractive interest rates to pay off all the existing debt of the university and to create new financial capacity to invest in these things we just talked about. So we went through that window. And from 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, we've never missed a bond payment. Still to this day, we've never missed debt. We've never missed any of the covenants. Those are the agreements. Anyone who takes a bond out, whether you're a corporation or a university, we have a set of ratios we have to meet, and they cover the things you'd really care about, like cash, days on hand, your ability. And there's one calculation, and we missed it this time. It's the first time ever, and people have paid attention to it legitimately. We're supposed to have in hand basically $1.10 for every dollar of obligations you have. That's called a 1.1 to 1 ratio, debt coverage ratio. We have always cleared it. We did not clear it this time. In the eventuality that there was ever a time you missed any of the covenants that are in our agreements, and they're in everybody's agreements, you have a way to address it. So we're in the middle of addressing it. Remember, this is the year that started in July of 23 and ended in June of 24 that you and I are discussing. And so the way to cure that, as is all written out all the way back to 2018, is you will get a consultant, which we're getting, and he's going to give you, or she, going to give you recommendations, which we'll review with our Board of Trustees and our faculty and our shared governance model. and then we'll go forward and enact those things. I can tell you based on, we're 6 months into the current fiscal year. Our fiscal year starts July 1. We're 6 months in. I'm confident we will finish the fiscal year we're in, what they call fiscal 2025, with a surplus. We're not supposed to run huge surpluses. We're a 501c3 not-for-profit. We're not supposed to have a profit motivation. We reinvest everything either into the endowment or into the support of the students and the faculty. So this year, we've already taken a number of steps. Looks good. Some of those steps are one-time and short-term. And so that leaves in front of us all of the work for 2026 through 2030, which to us is the real strategic planning window. But to your short question, what happened, that's what's going on.
I saw a headline, Jacksonville University President Tim Cost facing the most significant financial challenge of his 12-year tenure. Is JU in trouble financially? How would you describe that?
Yeah, I would say no. I mean, it's a fair comment. If you've never missed a debt payment, you've never stubbed your toe, and you've never tripped a wire, which we did this time on that debt coverage ratio, you're going to get people's attention on these things. And I think most of the reporting's been generally accurate. People, if they say one of the problems is too much money spent on the medical school, of course that's not true, because we haven't, one, started it, and two, it's not ours to spend money on. It's going to be our partners.
There won't be any money coming out of the pockets of JU on that project.
Right, it's a
right?
fantastic, world-class, the largest medical education college in the country, LECOM, that's our partner. And they're well on their way. They'll have their own announcements. They're our partner. So the question of kind of what is the status of things, we're in the short term, we're addressing the challenges of fiscal 2025, which is the year we're in and will end in 6 months. And I'm confident we're in good shape on that. The frankly more exciting, more interesting strategic undertaking for a school like ours in this landscape for higher ed is how do you want to position yourself? How do you want to fund yourself? How do you want to present yourself to potential students out in the 26 to 2030 timeframe? And that's what we're spending a lot of time on.
That's something that, as we've talked over this last decade, that's kind of the focus of who the students, what the campus would look like, and who would be on campus at JU. That's changed, and some of those reasons that you talked about before. You wanted to reposition, we want to reflect what our community needs. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think if anybody thinks about a university today, just go ahead and put in your favorite search engine, American colleges and universities, and you're going to get a very wide range that never existed before, all the way back hundreds of years, of whether or not it's wise for a young person to get a college degree. I mean, everybody from Thomas Edison to Winston Churchill has had to say, what sets you free is your education. So we're in a moment in America right now where many institutions are being called into question. I understand that. We all understand that, including whether or not all the young men and women should go to college, whether they should go to trade school, whether they should sit out a year, whether they can start their own webcast, whether they can. So that's the general backdrop. What you're referencing is the idea that in a city like this one, in a moment like this one, we can be a very good and helpful partner. We not only partner with good schools like UNF and FSCJ and Edward Waters, we partner with the healthcare, we partner with all the technology, we partner with the not-for-profits. That's the role the local private university should play, in my opinion. We have students on our campus coming in right in January from 48 states and over 50 foreign countries. That's the role we should play. We should be a magnet out there. We've privatized the risk of recruiting. Right? We're out there all around the country bringing in top students. We set a price for tuition, room and board, and some small fees, and then we discount or scholarship off of that as students try to decide, do they want to go to a school like ours? We're one of 30 private universities in the state of Florida. Most people would know Miami, Jacksonville, Stetson, Rollins, Tampa. Those are really the 5 that people think of. And then there's 12 public universities. And what the privates and the publics tend to do is try to get to, we do certainly, to a price that is not crushing in terms of debt. Students, I mean, no matter what anybody reads about what it, quote, costs to go to Jacksonville University, in the main, students are looking at scholarshiping that we put together for them privately in the range of north of 60% off of what you would see, which was roughly $45,000. So you get a student in here spending between $12 and $16 or $18,000, then room and board on top of that, then you're not reading about the things as the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal are writing now. Students are graduating with $250,000.
Right.
Well, if you get a medical degree from a Harvard, perhaps, but not here.
One of the things that we saw was, and you just said, hey, I'm optimistic, I feel good about where we'll be at the end of the fiscal year.
This year.
What are some of the, I guess, measures that you as president or as a leadership team have to take in order to change the cost structure or revenue versus the expenses? Because I'm reading that, hey, expenses have gone up and all of these sorts of things.
Yeah, and it's one of the inaccuracies, and it's all very fair reporting. In the short term, when you're trying to work on the year that you're in, you would normally focus on expenses. We have the ability to reduce what we spend over the next 6 months much more quickly than you have the ability to increase. Look at the revenues of a university like this one. So relatively light because we're private. It's not where you turn toward Tallahassee and they would give you 100 or 200 or 300 million dollars. We're grateful for what we get. But so the main revenue streams of a university like this one are what they are at all private universities: tuition, room and board, and fundraising. And so in a world right now where those are optimized, you're saying, okay, even if we were able to increase pricing here, let's say 3% or 3.5%, that's not going to benefit the year you're in. So in the short term, when I say we're confident in the fiscal year we're in, that's primarily internal cost cutting, which we have the capability to do on a base of $120 million of both revenues and expenses.
So certain people are going to be concerned, does that mean tuition is going to go up for people who are here? And I think what I saw was attributed to you in a statement last week was that annually costs go up less than 4% when it comes to tuition. Would there be more of a surge in the cost there to make all the balance sheet work?
Yeah, definitively no. We will not be raising tuition more than 4%. Usually what we've done is we keep a very close eye on interest rates and what we know families around again, we're sampling all around the country, all around the world due to our student body. And even when inflation was running up 9.2% in March of 22, we raised tuition at, I think, that point 3.9%. So that's the range people should be thinking. Yeah, there's not going to be any new additional increases to tuition beyond what we would normally do.
Cuts coming to faculty or staff or programs or things that the university already offers?
Yeah, when you look at expenses now, you're talking about now more strategically 2026 through 2030, which is a reasonable strategic planning window. I think it's fair to say all those things are on the table. If you look at locations where we might teach, technologies we bring to bear, I think all of the corporate friends you would have would tell you the massive productivity power inherent in just today's version of artificial intelligence tools are spectacular. We'll make decisions as to whether it's back office, that sort of thing. We're going to take a look at the technology. We're going to take a look at the hiring practices and what we thought we were going to do, and we'll see if that's one of the places a lot of corporations go is they don't actually release people that currently work there. They don't hire people they were planning to hire, which you had, quote, budgeted for, which gives you a saving. So I wouldn't rule anything out. And to me, that's the difference between fiscal year 25 that we're in. Remember, the attention's being paid to a year that's been over for 6 months. We're in the year we're in, and I'm confident we will deliver on that small surplus. It's the 26 to 30 strategic window where you start to say, is that a field you want to go into? There's opportunities you and I have talked about before. There are many things not taught in this city or in this region that a school like ours could look into. I said that 10 years ago about things like law and medicine and cyber, and they've ended up being very solid, and they've ended up being great for us. We plussed up on healthcare, and we did the other things, as I mentioned, especially aviation, marine science, public policy down the line. We've made a much bigger investment in military. So our NROTC program is as large as it's ever been. We're very, very pleased with how the NROTC is going. We've graduated almost 2,000 young men and women from there over time. So to your question about would you consider this, this, or this, I'm telling you a good strategic plan would look at all of those things. It would look at the timing of them. It would look at the cadence of when you're going to do them, and would look at what technology you want to apply to do them. So if we were thinking maybe we would do a lot of hiring in area B or D, so that we could get to this. We may decide not to go down that path if we, in this, got to put a bright light on your strategy now for 26 to 30. I'm excited to do it. I would tell you in a strange way, the discussion that's going on of the year that's passed has sharpened the discussion here on campus for the next 4 years. I'm grateful for it.
You're a JU alum,
Yeah.
a very successful business career. You come back. Are you applying all those things that you learned in your professional career before coming to higher education? Does that call come to bear right now as you go through this maybe crisis?
Yeah, it's an important question. I've always said to you and to others who ask, you leave 32 years in corporate America and come over here. You're always hopeful that leadership travels, that you're treating people with respect, you know when you're right or when you're wrong, you hire better people than yourself, you lead with humility. Those were things that served me and many men and women very well in corporate America, which is brutally, cruelly tough and competitive. And you don't rise there if you're not a good person. You don't rise there if you have questionable ethics and character. I was pleased to get to the near top of many good companies. Those things travel here. The things I've learned along the way, the faculty's been great, they like to teach. The things you learn about is the difference in an industry called higher education and industries, whether it's pharmaceuticals or services or financials or places that I came from. So absolutely, what I learned in my master's classes and what I learned in 32 years in business all comes here, but it all comes back to maybe how you treat people in your life, which is people want to be listened to. They want you to shoot straight with them. When you're wrong, you put your hand in the air. There's no point in this discussion where I'm saying, this is madness that people are worried about this. When you miss a bond covenant, you missed a bond covenant, and we will make good on it, and we will. So these ideas of how we treat each other with respect, I've been very pleased and impressed with how our staff, how our faculty, our board of trustees has been tremendous. Our donors, I mean, all the people, the alumni base, not just in Jacksonville, but all around the country. We have 50,000 alums out there saying, if you need anything, we're behind you. But they want to make sure that they're understanding what's going on. So, yeah, all of that. Maybe it's just that I've been doing this in one form or another for 44 years. Yeah. It does travel.
Do I understand correctly that this is maybe happening in higher education, not just at JU, but other private universities or private schools?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty easy.
Is it a difficult environment right now?
It's a good question. It's an easy bit of research to do if you look at lots of universities, especially in places where the weather isn't quite as beautiful as ours. If you look into
which is most places,
most places, right? You look into the Midwest, certainly in the Rust Belt. If you want to see, small universities in Pennsylvania, whether they're struggling or not. Yeah, it's a challenging time in higher education. You don't have maximum pricing flexibility. There's no universities out there trying to raise their prices 10%. There's lots of competition from things that you can go online these days, or your son or daughter could, and get a heck of an education online from courses available relatively free. What's called badging or credentialing. There's a lot of things coming to bear on higher ed, including, I think, the national mood, and something that everyone's trying to explain, which is quite a drop-off in the number of young men coming out of high school who want to go to college in America. The percentages of women continue to rise, and this number is getting past 60-40 women to men, and that's kind of a relatively new development and phenomenon for a school like us that plays 17 Division I sports and is nationally ranked in things like lacrosse, and we love baseball and basketball. That balances that out. So our distribution is 55% women, 45% men, but it's another thing you have to take into account. And if young people feel they can learn everything they need to off their phone, that makes a bit more of a challenge. So yeah, I would say people would generally describe the national landscape as challenging for higher education.
With what JU has been doing in the last decade plus, some of the things I think of, I know law school. Another law school in the area went out of business. There was an opportunity, a void, and JU filled it for sure. But has the university bitten off more than it can chew? Has it gone too fast in growth? Has it overextended itself before some of those revenues came in? How would you describe that?
Yeah, we tried to be very measured. I mean, it may have looked to people, and I appreciate if you turn the binoculars around now, it's a little easier to say, maybe they shouldn't have tried to do a STEAM institute and a law school and a medical school and an honors college. But we're talking about over the course of 10 years. And the medical school, which we announced in November of 22, we haven't broken ground with our partners yet. So that has not been consuming our time. People do focus in on the law school, and I would like to comment. I mean, I'm so proud of what they're doing at the College of Law. It's been energizing to see what's going on downtown. The city of Jacksonville, if people know the $1 billion plus budget they carry, they were kind enough, both through the Curry administration and the Deegan administration, to invest $3 million one year, $3.5 million another year. We did the same. And today you're looking at a College of Law with an incredible dean, remarkable faculty, that right now is 85 students. And I predict this incoming class could essentially be that size again itself. So you're starting to provide vitality downtown due to the fact that others have invested private donations in the city. We love everything that's going on at the law school. It's in its third year. It got provisional accreditation from the American Bar Association as fast as any College of Law in history, less than 2 years. So I feel good about that. And for people to say, well, that, anybody could say, is this a distraction? Is this a distraction? Isn't it? We have excellent deans here. We have very fine faculty. I'm not in every day asking our psychology folks, you know, that we've taught psychology here forever, you know, whether it's finance. We have an excellent group of 5 deans. I think the Honors College is 6 deans who are going to really work. I feel pretty solid about that. It's not accurate to say expenses are out of control. We missed a bond covenant, and we're going to make good.
And that's our interview with President Tim Cost from Jacksonville University. We are constantly working to try and bring you more interviews like this on our podcast, focusing on economic growth and what's happening in the region in business. So thanks for joining us for This Week in Jacksonville Business Edition. Like, follow, or subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. New episodes drop every Thursday at 9.